What if we have decimals that are like our integers, where we have positive and negatives and we're adding and subtracting them? So I have a couple examples here. I have a negative and then we're adding a positive, and then I have a negative and then we're subtracting. So a couple different problems, and if this is confusing for you, please bear with me. I'm going to introduce a concept that will hopefully make it a little bit easier, and it's going to be really good advice for when we get into Math 2, and we need to feel comfortable with taking an equation or an expression and changing the way it looks, but knowing that it's still the same expression, it's still the same equation. All right, so on this one, we have a negative 29.83 plus a 19.76. So we can't just add 29 and 19, because we're starting at a negative and then we're working towards 0. So what could we do? Well, one of the things that you could do is take this negative and kind of put it outside, and then because this negative is outside, we're going to change this sign to a negative on the inside, because we know a negative and a negative equals a positive. So what we just did is we changed how this expression looks, but it's still the same expression. And now whenever we look at our order operations, we just work with what's on the inside first. So whatever's on the inside, we know our answer is going to end up being negative. So now we can just do 29.83 minus 19.76. And that's kind of an easy problem. We did that in our last video. It's just regular subtraction of decimals. So we can go ahead and go through that. This is going to become a 13. 13 minus 6 is 7. 7 minus 7 is 0. 9 minus 9 is 0. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So our answer is 10.07. But that's what's on the inside of the decimal, or inside of the parentheses. So the decimal, after simplifying what's on the inside of parentheses, is 10.07. But we still have this negative sign that's going to come down. So our answer would just be a negative 10.07. And again, this concept is a really good concept to get used to, learning how to manipulate our expressions and equations, move them around, to get them to be a little bit easier for us to work through. And for this one, when you see something like this, if it's starting with a negative, go ahead and just take that negative out, put it in parentheses, and then change the sign on the inside. We're going to do the same thing with the next one. So our next one, we're starting with a negative. So we're going to take that negative and just kind of put everything in parentheses. And then instead of a negative sign on the inside, we're changing the sign. So we're pulling this negative out front of a set of parentheses and then changing the sign that's left inside the parentheses. And what happens? It just becomes a regular addition problem. And that's easy for us. We can do that. So we have 19.47 plus 32.58. We can go ahead and add. 7 plus 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 5 plus 4 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 9 is 11. Plus 1 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. And then we just make sure we bring that decimal down in our answer. So now we have simplified what's inside parentheses to 52.05. And this negative sign that's out front is just going to kind of tag along till the end. So our answer is going to be a negative 52.05. So when we're adding and subtracting decimals that are like our integers, they're the positives and the negatives, the step that I would encourage you to use is, if you're starting with a negative, go ahead and put the whole rest of the problem in parentheses, keep the negative on the outside, and then just change whatever signs are left inside the parentheses. And hopefully that'll make that problem just a little bit easier. You just need to remember to take that negative and include it with the end result of whatever you end up with in your parentheses after you simplify those.